What's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back here on this dreaded Monday, October 2nd, 2023. Not really dreaded. It's a beautiful Monday out here in Northern California. It is about 11:18 a.m. West Coast time here, 1.7, the latest earthquake here along the West Coast. We'll get to that activity here in a little bit. I want to focus primarily on some pretty large-scale uptick activity here just south of Japan into the Izu Trench. Gonna have to bear with me here. I'm still feeling a little under the weather today. Getting some deeper activity. I kind of pointed this out last night. Getting some deeper activity down here into the Izu Trench regions. The majority of these earthquakes right here, I think all of them, in fact, are relatively deep into the Izu Trench. There's one shallow one right here, but I've seen more large-scale, or moderate activity here. Deeper regions of the trench followed up subsequently upstream with some shallower earthquake activity. That's normally a good sign here of quite a bit of broad-scale pressure against the plate boundary here. In this case, you got the Filipino plate and the Pacific plate boundary. Izu Trench is a major player in accumulating some stress. Slip rate out here is quite high, and the general dynamics within this area. Here's this area, the Filipino plate here in the orange or red. Subduction zones in the arrows pointing towards each other. That also is a trench right here, but it's just not showing that on this area. And the general dynamics there show quite a bit of strain here from the western edge of the Pacific plate right up against that Filipino plate. And kind of keeping an eye on that because that's some large-scale uptick. That's quite a bit of swarming going on there. Got about 10 earthquakes or so in the last 24 hours. And, that bouncing back, deep, shallow type of scenario is what we look for potentially when it comes to maybe seeing some larger scale movement out there. We'll keep an eye on that area specifically because that's you can't miss that. That's pretty obvious. All right, as far as other activity goes, let's see what we got. I did see some movement over here across India potentially. Let's see where this is at. Just outside of the Bangladesh region, up against the plate boundary, 5.4. These guys have it 24 kilometers south of the India area in the orange. So this is a relatively shallow earthquake. The orange should be because of the felt reports here, or at least the potential damage. Really not seeing a whole lot of reports out here. Few reports around the India area, but I don't really see the contours here as far as the the intensity. I'm not for sure what happened to it. Looks like it disappeared, but either way, somewhat of a moderate earthquake out here against the India region, 10 kilometers deep. We have been seeing quite a bit of activity stirring up here in China off of the plate boundary, but the general dynamics of motion here does work itself up around this plate boundary when we talk about that westward pressure movement and migration, so to speak. It does work its way up here eventually, and looks like it's trying to work its way across this region of the Himalayas. Got one earthquake up here following this activity here much further to the west around the Tajikistan, whichever one you want. 5.3 earlier this morning, about 13 kilometers deep or so. So it looks like some noticeable uptick going on here across this area of the plate boundary. And of course, our typical cluster down here in the Indonesia Islands area. Some of this from yesterday. But definitely overall, today, a couple different areas we need to watch up here around Japan. And it's kind of skipping over this area around the Himalayas here, around Nepal, jumping over this region. Might want to watch that middle point out there, see if that brings anything about. But we're seeing areas that have been relatively quiet here for a little while finally show some signs of movement. And the Izu Trench is doing that in a glorious fashion here with deep and shallower earthquake activity. I love seeing this because it gives me a reason to chat about how the deeper activity downstream can add further strain up stress. Well, it makes sense, right? This is where all the strain tends to build up. And, of course, you get tension all the way down, right? Momentum and the pressure even into the deeper levels of the subduction zone. But this right here just goes to show you how a little bit of movement on the plate, a little bit of deeper diving here into the subduction zone adds further strain upstream as well. Fiji area, most of this activity from last night. New Zealand, let's see what we got here on the Earthquake 3D globe. Looks like a little bit of activity from yesterday and one this morning, maybe 3.1. North and South Island out there, nothing major going on for now. The California area is lighting up kind of like it did yesterday. We're getting some activity up and down the plate boundary on a large section of it here. It looks like from the south all the way up to the central portion and even northern portions getting in on it a little bit. Notice these red circles here indicating some recent activity in the location of where yesterday's activity was. So definitely getting some adjustment going on out here along the west coast, whether that's enough to trigger some big stress or big earthquake activity out here. Well, I guess we'll have to keep an eye on that. A little bit of movement down south here outside the Brawley seismic zone within the last hour. A couple earthquakes in the smaller range, and also up around the Salton Sea area, getting in on some small microquakes as well. The San Andreas Fault, the southern segment, remains quiet for now. That will not always be the case. And there's some movement here along the, well, it looks like it is around the creeping segment, or close to the creeping section here, just outside the Salinas area along the plate boundary. Extreme northern California. Again, we have been watching some activity out here across the Eureka area. Over the last couple days, been seeing some movement up here. Here's the last 7 days of activity. Seen a couple 4s in here as well. I think the strongest one so far is a 4.7 that kicked up a couple days ago. So just keeping an eye on this area. Today, a little bit quieter in that region of Northern California. Clear Lake Volcanic, or not Clear Lake, but Crater Lake Volcanic Field. Not really a field, but it is a volcano. Showing a little 0.7 out there underneath this area of Oregon. I don't think we got anything major going on. Let's double check that and see. Really haven't checked out the Crater Lake area in a while because it's just been awfully quiet. Let's go to the volcanic seismicity map. Crater Lake, it's a beautiful area. Absolutely beautiful. There's that one little earthquake here. Coming in earlier this morning, it looks like. See if any of these seismograph stations are working. Hopefully. We'll see. Sometimes it takes these things a minute to load. Not for sure why. Well, now this is I like it when the graphs are like this. Look at this. This looks like your typical seismograph drum where the needle's going across the paper, right? And it makes these little squiggly lines. This is absolutely beautiful. I wish all these stations were like this. There's some S waves up here from maybe yesterday. Not for sure which earthquake that was. But those squiggly, or these drawn out thick lines are S waves. The earthquake in question right here. I believe that's it. It just happened here. It looks like within the last hour. But wait a minute. Let's go double check that and see what their timestamp is up here around the Crater Lake. Well, this one here shows about 6 in the morning. So we're looking at a good 4 hours or so ago, right? So maybe this is it. But if that's their earthquake being recorded, then this one's bigger. Notice that? That's definitely a distinct earthquake. I thought that 0.7 was going to be this one, but that's got to be it right there. This is just a little blip here. That looks like about the right timestamp. This here is, well, within the last half an hour or so, it looks like. What's the current UTC time here? Got about 1826. So technically, this is a new quake, not popped up yet on the graphs here, or at least on the earthquake catalog. A little bit bigger than a well, they had this a negative 0.7, but this here, hard to say what that is exactly. All I know is it's a little bit bigger than this one that they reported. So we'll see if they get to that one. All right, a little bit of activity outside of Bend, Oregon as well, north of the Newberry volcano. And Mount St. Helens still showing some activity up here this morning with a handful of smaller quakes there. It's been an ongoing sequence of events. Nothing major, but still a little bit of earthquake activity. Let's go check that out here real quick around Mount St. Helens. And there's a little bit of the activity brought up here. There's probably a little bit more than that. I think we were looking at, well, this just shows the last 2 weeks of activity. We're coming up over on 170 earthquakes or so, probably in the last 45 days, specifically within this area of Mount St. Helens, right up at the crater area. And this is just the last 2 weeks. All right, let's see what we got here for the activity. Just double check this here from the PNSN network. There's a couple different ways you can check these seismograph stations here, either through the USGS or this one specifically. Good, look what happened here. Looks like some adjustment going on, maybe. Far as earthquake activity, there's the S wave that we had seen on that other seismograph station, but I'm not for certain where that came from. Could be from some of the fours that we've seen here in Northern California yesterday and the day before. I don't know. But I'm going to go over here to the USGS map and take a little bit better look at that graph here. Mount St. Helens still sitting at a green and normal. There hasn't really been any major, no thanks, volcanic activity, as far as obvious signs. There was back when the swarm started kicking up. Let's see here. Is it gone? It is gone. It was prior to this, back when the earthquake swarm started there in early, about the 1st of September. We had a pretty good spike of activity in the sulfur dioxide department, which is obviously a sign of maybe some heavier volcanic gases seeping up. Let's see here, but it looks fairly steady for now. The only thing that's been continuing is like the earthquake activity, earthquake swarming. And it's just been a couple here and there. Here's the last 24 hours of activity. I'm pretty certain this is some wind events up there. Real quick glance here at the wind going on up there, because we need to double check that. We don't want to be creating fear by saying that's magma or whatnot. If you hear me say that's magma, then you know it's true. But I always verify the what's going on up here as far as the weather goes. It looks like it's been earlier this morning. Mount St. Helens area. That's Mount Adams. Where am I here? I'm way off. Yeah, head colds are no fun. So somewhere out here, there's a little bit of elevated wind in this region. I am just, I'm half here today. But as far as the rest of the Cascades go, there's definitely a little bit of wind out there. But whether it's super heavy up there around Mount St. Helens or not, well, it kind of looks like it is. There's still a little bit of earthquake activity. That's going to be these right here. These little spikes showing up, maybe right here as well. I'm pretty certain that's wind. Let's check out the other graph here. Oh, goodness. Let's see. Yeah, kind of looks like it. They're popping up, I believe. I don't think that's anything other than some type of wind event out there. Not really showing up here too much on this station that's further away. If this was some type of volcanic activity, I think we would know that. We would note that in the volcanic gases, but it really doesn't look like too much is kicking up right now. So, just kind of keep an eye on that with its continued little swarming going on. I don't know. Was there any rain up there? Hold on. I had to sneeze, but I did not want that to go on the update video. Goodness. Yeah, it looks like there's some rain and wind coming in. That's it right there. I mean, look at that. And that has just kicked up within the past oh man, a couple hours or so. Rain and wind showing up here across the seismograph stations. They're around the Mount St. Helens area. We're getting very close to it. Not a whole lot showing up there right now, but it's obviously some wind. Higher peaks showing some windy conditions. All right, we'll move on past that. Always want to try to avoid the confusion if someone sees, you know, a signal on the graph. One might be able to think, hey, this looks like magma movement, because technically if you look at maybe Kilauea volcano, any other volcano, it could look like harmonic tremor, fluid movement, but it's not. So I just wanted to clear that up a little bit. All right, moving on and forward or backwards. I don't know where I'm going today. Blanco fracture zone from yesterday. That was, I bet you that's what we've seen, yeah. That makes sense. 4.7 off the coast of Oregon yesterday, about the same timestamp as what we've seen those S waves kicking off on, the ones that I just showed you here a little bit ago. All right, let's move on. Let's see, here's a little quake close to the Cascadia, 31 kilometers deep into the subduction zone here, 2.5. Yellowstone National Park, couple smaller earthquakes here around the Hebgen Lake area, just east of there. Let's see what we got for Yellowstone. A handful of smaller quakes, it looks like. I already see these little quakes popping up. Always well defined. This up here, not so much. But these little earthquakes, you can basically point them out, see them on the graph, and just look at nearby stations and see if they showed up. And that kind of showed up here as well. There was also some wind and some rain up here last night, or yesterday afternoon. Some thunderstorms. That's what that measurement that you're seeing right here, this little thickness on the graph, showed up across a good some of the stations out here where the storms are popping up. Looks like that may be kicking back up today. I don't know. Looks like a little bit. As far as windy conditions go out there, got a big pattern change going on here. We'll check out the weather here in a little bit, but looks like a little bit of wind kicking up here, funneling in from the south into the Yellowstone region. All right, let's move on for earthquake activity. Texas. There's that 3.6 from yesterday. It's out there around Snyder, Texas area, and quite a bit of oil fields out here in this area of Texas. Getting into the Permian Basin out here, it looks like. There's lots of oil. Lots of it. Lots of richness. I wish I had some oil rights out there. Puerto Rico, I have been watching a little swarm out here, but it since has calmed down. Most of this activity that was stirring up out here is from yesterday. So it looks like a little relief out there between the plate boundary. As far as South America goes, a couple earthquakes from yesterday and one from today. Got a 4.5, 130 kilometers deep. What about the Mediterranean out here? One earthquake off the coast here of the Bosnia area, 4.5, 10 kilometers deep. I know we got some other earthquake activity stirring up out there. Mostly smaller movement quakes in the area today. The Atlantic Ocean, aside from some movement down south in the South Sandwich Trench from yesterday, it's been relatively quiet here today. So I think for now, main areas to watch would be around the Japan area. That's quite the dynamic setup that's going on up here with deeper activity triggering surface movement. Also at the same time, you know, this whole area will eventually have to catch up. It may be catching up north right now here. We've actually seen a little bit more activity down south here than we have seen up north in the past 30 days. So it looks like things are wanting to fill in and catch up. A little bit of quiet zone potential right here, it looks like. So we may want to, either way, I think we may want to watch this general plate boundary today up around the Japan area south into the Mariana Trench. It looks like it's showing some good pressure in that area right now. All right, the big island of Hawaii. Let's see what we got going on here. One earthquake down in the Pahala area, 2.1, almost 30 kilometers deep there. I don't think we got anything major going on as far as changes going at the volcanoes. The daily update or weekly update was put out here just about a week or so ago. So we should be seeing this updated maybe today or tomorrow. But aside from that, things look pretty calm there across the Kilauea volcano and Mauna Loa. No major USGS monitored volcanoes in active phase right now. Of course, it's got the Great Sitkin and the Shishaldin volcano showing some previous somewhat eruptive activity here in the past couple months, but nothing of change for now. Storm Prediction Center, going to be a setup here for the next couple days. Got some troughing going on, cooling temperatures here across the west. That trough is going to scoot eastward, bring up and interact with the warm moisture, and this kind of looks like a springtime setup, but this is a wide area that's going to be affected out here as far as potential severe weather goes. We do have a 5% chance for tornado probability today out in eastern New Mexico, Clovis, and it looks like maybe extreme western Texas out here as well. That's a 5%, 2% covers that area of Texas. So if you are in that area, just a heads up for any rotation out there. Main threat looks like it could be some large hail there in the dashed area, mainly around a little bit of Texas and southeastern New Mexico, looking at 10% or greater probability of 2-inch diameter hail. And we do know that those thunderstorms can produce some golf balls and maybe some larger ones as well. So heads up if you're out there today in this area of the country. Most of the activity is confined out there to this region. And again, that's due to a low pressure trough. Let me show you guys here real quick the symbol that is working its way eastward, interacting. I got some cooler, drier air interacting with this warm, moist air. And of course, what happens? You get that convection going on and the potential for severe weather. And that's going to scoot mainly northeast, bringing with it the severe weather threat. This high pressure is going to get knocked out of bounds. I'm sure those guys are going to be happy about it. Bringing in some cooler temperatures out there for the eastern portion of the country, finally. Great Lakes area as well, getting in on some chilly temperatures as we work our way towards the weekend. And, well, throughout the rest of the October month, we do have a little bit of further troughing building back here across the Pacific Northwest. I'm hoping this high pressure stays out of here. I don't like it in the picture because that means hot conditions here for California. And coming up this week here, we do have highs in the mid-90s out here again in Northern California where I live. So I'm not looking forward to that at all. I'm ready for fall, but I understand these patterns have to happen in order to create these other troughs and whatnot. So we'll go with the flow, so to speak. All right, folks, I'm going to hopefully get out the prizes here today for the winners of the 100,000 subscriber giveaway. I'm moving a little slow today. Just so bear with me. When those prizes are sent out, of course, I will provide tracking numbers to the folks that have emailed me. And then we'll go from there. But if you don't get a tracking number today, then that means I didn't quite make it down there to the post office. But I'm going to try to get everything together and send it out today. If not, hopefully it'll be tomorrow when I'm feeling a little bit better. But it's just, I don't know. It's weird. I got this sickness that just came up out of the blue. And it did happen here. It rained a little bit. When was that? A couple nights ago. And I was just out in it. enjoying it, but I don't know if it made me sick or not. Normally, doctors say you can't get sick by going out in the cold, and it wasn't even really that cold. But maybe it was something in the air. I don't know. Really weird, but it just kind of hit me all of a sudden. The kids were slightly sick prior to that, so maybe it's just bad timing. I don't know. We'll figure it out, though. All right. Have a good Monday. I'm not going to say happy Monday. Happy Monday, everyone. We say that on Friday, right? Happy Friday. All right. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later on this evening. Stay safe out there and take care. Peace out.